This week's portion, Beshalach, is among the most intense. I mean, just the last 2 weeks we have emerged as free as plague after plague keeps on hitting Egypt. And at first we aren't even able to receive the freedom. We are short of breath. We couldn't hear Moses's telling us that freedom was on its way because of our own kotzer ruach, our own shortness of spirit. We couldn't even imagine being free. And so here we are, after Egypt has been pummeled, decimated. We are on our way, suddenly, Bishalach, when it came to pass at the beginning of the Parsha, which is verse 17 of chapter 13 of Exodus. Vayhi Bishalach Paro et ha'am, when Pharaoh expelled us, which is mistranslated over and over as when Pharaoh let the people go. Pharaoh didn't just let us go, Pharaoh expelled us. And the power of being thrust out of Egypt is coupled by Aviva Zornberg's notion that when we went through the Sea of Reeds, which will happen this week, the breaking of that water was itself a birth process. We emerged through the Sea of Reeds, born as God's people, but before we got there, we had to be expelled from Pharaoh's domain, which is Mitzrayim, a place of contraction. And so it's a birth process, contraction after contraction, a process imbued by pain, in fact, leads to our birth as a people. If you can imagine that kind of propulsion, we are moving so fast after plague after plague. So when we begin our portion, here's what we hear. When Pharaoh sent the people out, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although it was nearer. For God said, Pen yinachem ha'am birotam milchama v'shavu mitzrayma. This people might turn, might have a change of heart after war, after experiencing and enduring war, and they might return to Mitzrayim, this people who isn't ready really to understand its own freedom, only emerging from its shortness of breath a few weeks ago in our chronology. They might even go back to what they knew, because it's easier to deal with being a slave, perhaps, than it is to earn your own freedom. So God made us go round about by way of the wilderness, by the Sea of Reeds. That's verse 18. And then we hear Moses taking Joseph's bones. And then we went from Sukkot, we camped at Etam on the edge of the wilderness. And then we hear these words, verse 21. Adonai went before them in a pillar of cloud by day to guide them along the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, that they might travel day and night. The pillar of cloud by day and pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people. And then we are told the strangest of things. Here we are, we finally make it. We are camping, we are far away. And you and I know that Pharaoh and the Egyptian army is about to come follow us and scare us once again. Freedom so hard fought could be lost, and we could all die on the cusp of tasting our own freedom. Verse 14 is perhaps the greatest, chapter 14, verse 1, is perhaps the greatest challenge that we will face. Adonai says to Moshe, tell the Israelites, turn around. Can you just imagine what it is to be running for your life? And God says, turn around. Turn around and encamp lifnei pi hachirot, before pi hachirot, the face of cherut, before freedom. Turn around before you taste your own freedom. Between Migdol and between the water, the great sea, the Sea of Reeds. Lifnei Baal Tzafon nichcho tachanu al hayam. Encamp facing it by the sea. Turn your backs to your freedom and face your greatest fear, which is now about to race at you. Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, they are astray in the land, the wilderness has closed in on them. Then I, God, will stiffen Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, that I may gain glory through Pharaoh and all his host, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. Now you and I can deal another time with a God who needs to be acknowledged, but recognize what the challenge that God is placing before the Israelites represents. They just want to be free, and they don't even know what it means. And as they're about to taste fresh air, they are told by God, turn around and face your enemy. And they do so. Verse 5, when the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, he was told. He didn't know. Pharaoh and his courtiers had a change of heart. They turned around and said, "What is this that we have done, releasing Israel from our service?" And they chase after the Israelites. And so if you can imagine for a moment, the Israelites coming from Egypt are following fate and God's command toward the sea when God says turn around, and so they do. So here are the Israelites. They've turned around to face back towards Egypt, perhaps finally having some freedom awakened within their spirits, the spirits that could not expand in contraction, which Egypt represents. But then you also have Pharaoh, who is actually in pursuit of the Israelites throughout the plagues, finally lets them go and is facing back towards Egypt, his own people. And then when the Israelites leave, Pharaoh and his army chase after them. It's as if Pharaoh cannot help, perhaps through his own hardened heart. He cannot help but pursue the Israelites no matter what. And the Israelites, who would like nothing more than to continue running away, are called by God to pause before their freedom and to stop and to take stock of what they are escaping from, to confront it, because only through confronting the thing that holds you back can you become free. This is Shabbat Shirah. This is the Shabbat where we sing. May we be blessed this week, today, to sing in a way that we never imagined was possible, because we were brave enough to stop and look back at the thing that has been holding us back for so long. Shabbat Shalom.